So some people may have noticed that our public spaces are becoming a lot more woke. Rainbow crossings are appearing in many towns. We now sometimes see sort of traffic lights dolled up with symbols of sexual minorities. And in Hanau, in Germany, they've started giving out parking spaces, especially for LGBT people and for migrants. What do we make of this kind of...
I want to see what that blue badge looks like. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with people showing papers to show their migration status. But anyway, what do we make of this kind of rainbowification, this prideification of public space?
Well, there's two sides to it. One side is that it has been proven to cause practical problems for people.
Yeah.
So as was covered on Spike this week, there is an issue with disabled people complaining about the fact that their guide dogs, blind people with guide dogs, cannot understand a rainbow crossing, for example, and that the sort of haphazard way in which towns might display their woke credentials via paintings on the road and going away from a kind of standardized zebra crossing poses problems for people who need standardized things because they're not able to differentiate like those of us who are able-bodied or whatever the phrase is. There's the practical problems of that. I mean, there's also the case that in Church Street in Stoke Newington, near where I live, they've got rainbow crossings all over the street that actually signify LTNs. But everyone drives up to and thinks, oh, lovely rainbow crossing, drives through and gets a fine. So there's several practical problems to these. But then there's also the fact that this is not just a nice painting on the road. It's not just a nice picture of a lady with half a skirt, half a trouser leg on the traffic light. What it is the insinuation that if we didn't have these, then we'd all be going around dropping out homophobic slurs and, walking into disabled people and not giving migrants our parking space, that we're an evil population that needs these kind of nudges and hints from authorities to keep us in line ideologically. It's really quite sinister.
Or the alternative is that, if you are from a sexual minority or you're a migrant, you're so oppressed that you need this reminder that we're with you.
Yeah.
You've got this. Yeah. It's okay. And people might have seen in Canada, there was an incident where, it's a road marking. So there were skid marks on one of these rainbow zebra crossings. And the police treated the incident as a hate crime, as an attack.
Well, they were doing like donuts on it just to make a point.
I don't know whether they were doing that or just, slam the brakes very hard. Trying to not run someone over.
The politics of zebra crossings. It just it affects everything, doesn't it? I guess in terms of how public space has to be reshaped, it's interesting, and Joe Bartosh mentions this in a piece about how some of the traffic signals around Trafalgar Square, I think it is, where they were just brought in for pride, and you can never get rid of them, because of the fact that to do so would be to act as if you were taking something away or making some sort of statement. And it's such a strange thing to do in public space, I think, to constantly have this, in quote marks, because I don't think it actually is this sort of celebration of difference. Because on the one hand, who's against celebrating the fact that people come from different walks of life and we can all be one harmonious society, all the rest of it, that's fine. But not only has it been kind of fetishized in a quite tokenistic and I'm sure quite patronizing fashion, people just trying to go about their business, and they've constantly got everything from a traffic crossing to some sort of sign on the on the side of a tube talking about how we're all allies with you, and isn't that wonderful? Like, just want to go about their days, I'm sure. But also is the fact that, again, celebrating difference becomes the point. You should, as a society, particularly a multiracial society, a tolerant society of people of all different sexual inclinations and all the rest of it, you should be relaxed about difference. You want to constantly point it out, though. Like, that's the subtle but important difference that we see. And the thing about, I don't know why I'm laughing, but the fact about, guide dogs having a problem with this. It's fascinating that you can be so woke that you're ableist, which seems to be one thing that's going on here. But also, and Joe makes this point in the piece, which I don't have a good answer to, is how all of the kind of the Oppression Olympics crowd, they haven't really got much space for disabled people at all. Like, the fact that if you're in a wheelchair or if you have certain other disabilities, that even just operating in public space is very difficult. There's only like 50 stops on TfL which are actually wheelchair accessible. This doesn't feature in the grand theory at all, really. It's not talked about that much. They don't have a flag, as Joe says.
Because it's hard work. It means investing in things. It means actually changing public space for the better rather than a lick of paint.
There's that, and there's also the fact that, I guess, what's interesting is you do see this around the edges of the identitarian thing, where people actually identify into disability as well. And that one thing I think at least makes it less of a big issue is that the great thing about identity politics for a lot of quite privileged people in society is by dint of a particular characteristic, they can claim this victim status. It's not an easy thing to claim to be disabled. Some of them still do it, which is very odd and is one of the under-commented upon and quite strange aspects of the whole kind of social justice ideology. But I guess because of the fact that it's an actual real thing in society rather than just something which is in your head and your feelings, it seems to be, again, just not talked about. Certainly not a sexy issue for these people, despite the fact it's a very clear problem for people who need to go about society and they can't because of their, particular restrictions.